Hello, I'm Madeline Tynan from the Tynan Motor Group, and I'm here to empower you today with Paul Burgess from Link Up International. How are you, Paul?
Thanks, Madeline. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. We've been friends for a long time, but business acquaintances as well too.
Yep.
Can you just give everyone a bit of a taste of what your business is doing? Both you grew up in the Shire, but you also run an international business. Can you just give us a little bit of brief on that?
Sure, thank you. Well, I developed a technology, and it's our technology business, around human motivation and what makes people tick. So I have a process, like a questionnaire that people do online, that helps identify what drives and motivates each person. So firstly, understanding yourselves and the way that you're wired, what we call your innate instinctive drives. And
that's a bit scary because you know mine, so it's very scary.
The more people are true to the way they're wired, what you would call your natural self, your true strengths, that's the more, that's where you're more likely to shine and not only be successful, but being much more fulfilled being successful as well. So that's my business. It's a technology business, and then we have a consulting and coaching sort of layer that goes on top to help people really embrace and use that.
So do you start from the top down? So do you start from the senior managers down, or do you start from a different level?
Mostly it's from the senior leadership of an organisation.
It has to be driven, doesn't it?
Have this culture. But there are times where someone who really believes in this type of leadership, who's further into the business, starts something like lighting a little fire, and then as the good sort of noise of that starts to permeate the business, leadership then gets wind of it and sort of says, well, what is that? Let's maybe look at that more seriously. So I've had that happen as well. But mostly it comes from, and I think the more successful ones are where it comes from the top through the organisation.
Right. And how have you seen people reacting, and what have they been asking for from you during this time?
Well, it's interesting. See, normally when people were working before the pandemic, I think people felt fairly confident about the way they needed to work with their teams, firstly themselves and then with their teams, to get the best out of their people. But now that you've got people with a lot of fear, and uncertainty, and then a change with working from home with all sorts of new pressures, the pressures of working with their partner and family at home and juggling kids and work and no boundaries about where does work stop and start, and then missing colleagues from work, and the young millennials that everyone thought were like superheroes who are often living on their own, so their isolation really is isolation for them, whereas for people who are either married or in relationships with families, they've got a little bit more support around them. So it's all uncertain and new, and people are trying to figure out these new dynamics.
So have you noticed difference, like within a family company like ourselves to a big conglomerate like you work with Google, or have you noticed a difference in the way people have panned down on that?
Well, the fears, the uncertainties, the changes are all the same, and depending on the strength of each business and frankly the leadership abilities of each business as well, they deal with things differently. So like the point is, you hear on the news all the time, the sort of catch cry is, we're all in this together. And that's the point. Leaders are going through this with the same amount of fear and uncertainty and turmoil as their employees, for example.
Oh, definitely.
But you're trying to lead with a brave face, a bit like a parent is sort of saying to the kids, no, it's all okay, it's all okay. But really inside, you're like really scared. But it's the same thing with leading these businesses. We're all going through it together. And I see that very common, whether it's a smaller family business or whether it's a bigger business. We've all got to just put on our grown-up pants and still lead really strongly.
And I think, like we went through the 21% interest rates on our mortgages and all of that when we were very young. So we've got probably a little bit more resilience, where you see the younger ones today haven't really been through anything. And I do think Australians at first thought, this isn't going to happen. Like, we've got a great government, things are going okay, da-da-da, and then bam, turned off.
So as a leader, do you feel the pressure?
Absolutely.
Really?
We bunkered down early as a family as well too, but yeah, the pressure is really on, and I feel a lot of it because I worry about not only myself and my brothers and sisters who are running the company, but for the next generation. We were brought into this business under our father's name, and from him working extremely hard, and I've been working for him since I was like 21. So you've got a lot of pressure to make sure that we can move forward and still be here for everyone else, and be putting out the right images of who Tynan Motors is, because who are we during this pandemic?
Right. Well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of the leaders I've worked with, even globally, have said that the thing that they're really trying to be conscious of is that they're going to be judged ultimately by how they led through this time. No one's going to forget this time in a hurry. And people are looking at you as a leader, and they're looking at the culture of your business and whether you led with compassion or whether you lost your way, you know. So I think leaders do feel a lot of pressure, whether their business is big or small, you know, through a time like this.
And I think, you know, in such a community like the St George and Sutherland Shire and the Illawarra, where we now have our businesses, a lot of them are family businesses that have worked right from the bottom and made their money or their business through sheer hard work. So where does that leave us as a company, and where do we direct our services? We just literally, car sales have closed, so we may as well not be here. But the servicing side and the spare parts side, because we're a necessity for the ambulance, the police, people to, you know, get to work, get home from work, things like that, they're still operating. And we still have, you know, we've put off 60 people over this period of time. You still have their mental health and their family you worry about, just like your own family.
Absolutely. Do you feel that you've had to change, like the sorts of things you focused on before the pandemic? Do you feel like you're now needing to do things differently?
We've all had our role to play within our company. Daniel, my brother, who's the CEO, has gone more into the HR side and looking at who we could afford to save, not save, but to move forward to make sure that we were still here at the end of this, that we could hopefully bring people back on, is as having a look at how we could survive that and keep cash flow within the business. As you probably will know, you know, as soon as those cars come off the boats, we own them. We have to floor plan them.
Okay.
So we have to have that cash flow to keep going. And also just to keep the staff mentally sane when there isn't anyone walking in the door. That is extremely hard.
So how do you deal with your stress?
Exercise is probably a good one. And I noticed last week when I didn't do it, I felt absolutely mentally stressed to the point that it was a little bit hard to handle. But I think once you get back into your normal routine, keep that routine up of making sure you're healthy, that you eat correctly, and that you have family around you. I thrive on family, so that makes me feel better. Great
point. Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because for all the uncertainty that is there are still things that are normal and that are certain that we can control. And the best leaders that I see really, it feels bad to say they're thriving in a time like this, but who are doing a really good job of leading their teams. They are still doing the things that they know help them be at their best. They're being true to their IDs, you know, which is the work I do, helping them understand the way why they're being true to that particular aspect of themselves. They're definitely out there exercising. They are trying to keep things relatively normal with their family, not so much the social side, but even if they can't see some of their closest friends,
reach out.
They get on a Zoom call or something and deal with it that way, you know.
I think that's extremely important. I mean, obviously, a lot of our friends are in business themselves, and I've seen some cases that break your heart, really. And Wayne and I decided that when we walked into a certain couple of our friends, we've gone, you know, as in on the phone, is not to mention what's happening in our own businesses and our lives, just let them talk. And then all of a sudden they're talking, and it's you can see the mental release of them being able to just say, things are tough. You know, we've lost 90% of our business. We don't know whether we're going to be there next week. And then we can be there for them to lead the way. And then I think that teaches our children that we're resilient as well too, because no one's perfect. And we all have our own little, you know, things that we probably don't like in our personalities, and you would learn that through what you do. But to come out and teach my children that I can be resilient, and yes, I can cry, and yes, I can be cross, and I can be thinking, why the hell us now? We were just going, you know, into a great space. That's just life. It's life. We've got new babies coming, we've got a wedding coming. We still have to be here when that's finished, and I hopefully will be a good leader for them as well.
I'm sure you will be. You know, you've just got to keep your own internal compass focused on the right things, which are our values. At the end of the day, you know, I said to my kids, I might lose everything. In week 2, before I had some assurances from clients that things were going to continue, I really thought that we are a discretionary expense and that we would take a massive hit. And I've been incredibly surprised by the fact that it's, not gone like that. We've stayed much closer to our customers, but I remember saying to my kids, I could lose everything here. And what I won't lose is I won't lose you as my family. I won't lose my personality. I won't lose my values. And I could lose everything financially, and I can still wake up every day and say, wow, what a beautiful day, and choose to be positive and happy and grateful for whatever it is I am left with. And if all I was left with was my family and friends and my own ability to live as best I could, that's still good.
That's a legacy for your children to understand. And I think that's really important for people in business to understand, to also show your family and your staff your vulnerable side, because that is part of our personalities. We are allowed to be vulnerable.
It's also being authentic.
Authentic, yes.
Which is the way to lead.
Yes, I believe so. And I think when I've been really proud of the way our family's pulled together, as in the senior members, because Mum is obviously still the owner of the company, is her understanding and trust in us that we are doing our very, very best to make sure that we're here for the next generation. And she has to have that faith in us that we're leading the way that way. But in saying that, it's people like yourselves and we've had Maddie King from McGrath's, we've had C-Level coming in. We've got all these people in the community that are all wanting to pull together. The Shires really amaze me, and St George and the Illawarra are just amazing, right down to the not-for-profits with Clever Care and SSMRF. They're all hurting, but were really willing to come out and tell their stories so that people might gain one thing out of what they're talking about.
That's excellent, Madeline. Excellent.
So to finish up, Paul, when we're saying that the instinctive drives within your platform, you get to understand and help out, what will you take out of that going forward? I know what I'm going to take out of this time. There's not much, but apart from I'm loved by my family and my friends, and they've been there for me, so hopefully I've been just as good back to them. But what are you going to take out of this?
Well, for me, the message I would share with people is learn from a lot of people, but just because their way works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You've got to find the way that is your way and be true to yourself in all of this and be authentic. If you feel it's not wrong to be upset in front of your team or anyone else, or to say that you feel lost and threatened and scared. That's being human, that's being real, and that's good leadership. But it is incumbent on you then to find a way forward and not just sit there and wallow, but to say, well, I do feel fear, I do feel concern, I do feel uncertainty, and here's what we're doing. I said to someone yesterday, at the end of the day, leadership and probably big decisions in life all come down to a leap of faith. And this is a time where we're taking leap after faith, after leap after faith, after leap after faith. And we just need to be comfortable with that. But the more you're being authentic and true to your own self, the better you'll do that and the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't know whether you've seen that as a woman. I think...
I haven't seen as a woman.
You haven't seen it
no.
as a woman. No, I see it as a woman. But on that side of it, with your leadership, talking with leaders, have you seen a difference between the way that women have seen it and worked with this pandemic versus the male, and I hate to do that male-female thing, but I know from myself, being a female, and a mother, I tend to look at, I'm going to have to make these decisions that are going to affect, and I know everyone looks at that's going to affect their wife, their family, but you become very protective of your staff and your immediate staff, that you want to protect them, to make them and come on that journey with you, where if there's no cash flow, there's none of that available. So there's some hard decisions there and some hard calls that people have had to make.
Yeah, I've seen the male leaders. What has stood out to me is how compassionate and loving and caring so many men have been. That I think weren't expected, because they're normally, in the normal time of business, they're focused on all the business results and the strategies and all the hardcore stuff, but they've shown I think, a really beautiful side, to their employees and to their families. I don't mean everyone, but I've seen many cases of that.
So, but with IDs though, with an ID, certain people that love to just see results and see all strategies written down, and everything has to be like numbered, and I'm putting that in a simplistic term. And then there's other people that love to see how it's playing out, work with it, manipulate it with it.
Yes.
That's not available in a lot of businesses.
No, but what has changed, for example, is that they were very results oriented, and right now, instead of the results orientation being about the business, it's about the safety. So they're still results oriented, but they're caring and driving for the safety and well-being of their employees more so than just the business results of the business. So they're still being true to the results orientation aspect of themselves, but it's about the safety and security of their employees and their families.
And then they're having to make hard decisions that...
As well.
Yeah, and they're having to learn techniques to get them through and be happy about it as well. And I think at a senior level, you have to make sure that you're checking in with the other senior people and saying, you're having a bad day today? Like, you want to just have a chat about it? Or even just to say, look, I thought I'd just give you a call. Is everything okay? No, yes, okay, I'll call you later on. It doesn't have to be the in-depth conversations that,
I think that's what I'm saying. When you asked me before about what differences, I do see people staying a lot closer than what they normally have. And at the moment, it's out of care and compassion. But I think they're getting a lot of goodness out of it, that when things improve, I hope people will still stay close, because it's more fun and they're getting better results. And I don't mean just business results. They feel better about what they're doing when they do it with people and feel connected.
And I think the positivity out of that, and making sure you get out in the sunshine, get a bit of vitamin D, just see the beautiful things in the world rather than just the negative that you're trying to deal with each day today.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thanks, Madeline. Thank you.